Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Let me help Louise for a minute.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Uh, yeah.
Hey, we got a fresh face.
I know. Two fresh faces, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, Mike.
There's Louise.
Whoa.
Hi.
Oh,
Oh,
Chris.
Chris. Hey,
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
We'll get everyone settled in just a second. I know Mohammed couldn't make it today.
Lindsay, quick question. We didn't have homework, right, this time? Or did we?
I thought you had, what you did, some discussion questions.
Oh, okay. Okay. I did see those, but I didn't know because we had discussed that during our last outing. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
I
just
get
your
it.
like more like reflection questions than anything else.
Okay. We'll get it done.
I know you will. Okay, cool. We're settled. So I think it would be great to get Mike and Chris introduced to everything. So they are going to join us in the leadership program. You two have been sent some stress finder assessments, so I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Also the user guide, which I know everyone is a big fan of. And um, the only thing that you might miss, although you'll have the presentation, would be that kickoff meeting. There was a lot of like great like reflection and discussion. So you might just have to do that independently, and then we can talk about it once you're caught up. But everything else should be in the LMS for you. But I'll introduce myself, because then I think I know Chris. I know you from LinkedIn. I think we may have met in person at the taco cook-off. Were you there? Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
what I
was
thought.
there. Yeah.
And then Mike, I don't know that we've met.
No, I
Um,
don't believe we have met. I'm trying to play with my camera right now to get it to come on, but no, I don't think we have met.
okay, cool. Were you part of last summer? I was there with my colleague Olivia. We were there like in July, and we had these different focus group interviews in a conference room. Were you part of that?
No, ma'am. I just started with TCH probably like about a month and a half ago.
Oh, cool. All right. Welcome. Which um, which campus are you at?
I'm at the one of the medical center with the guys.
The main medical center. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. What's your role?
Electrical operational manager.
Electrical operational manager. Are you a journeyman electrician?
A master electrician.
Master electrician. Okay. How many years of experience do you have in electrical?
Ooh, about 19 years.
Okay. What about in healthcare?
Healthcare got about 7 to 8.
Okay. And how many years of leadership do you have?
Ooh, probably around 14 to 15.
14 to 15. Okay. Do you know all the guys on this call?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good. Well, I am Lindsay Brackett. I am the Chief Empowerment Officer for my company, Legacy FM. I have a background in engineering and construction. I did that for about 10 years before I transitioned into a role more directly with healthcare facilities management. I have been in the adult learning space, training space since 2014. But before that, I've done a bunch of work with in healthcare in terms of like virtual commissioning and commissioning work, data analytics, the different facility management support. And then I started my company in 2018, and all we focus on is education and training for facilities engineering teams. So that does include some trade specific training. That's most of actually what we do is trade specific training. We are working with Texas Children's on a technical training program. I just met with Salem on Monday to talk about some competency assessments that we're going to roll out to your team. So that'll begin in a few weeks, about 8 weeks from now, June 8th. And then for after that, we'll assess everyone in different domains, and then so like electrician, plumber, plant operations, and then we'll get them a personalized training program that they can start with the third quarter of this year. That's like most of what we do. But we did start a training program a few years ago with another healthcare organization. It was a great success. We're on our third cohort with them. It's been cool because they've had people that started out as like technicians and operators, and since then they've been promoted to supervisor, and then some from a supervisor to a manager. And they've become mentors for other people in that training program. So what we did is we took that curriculum, which was 150 hours, 1 year program, and we've been able to offer that to other healthcare systems. So I met with Salem and Burt last year, and Salem's like, "Yeah, we're really looking for some leadership training." And I was like, "Well, we've got a curriculum. Love for you to take a look at it." And they picked out about 115 hours that you guys are going to be going through through I think February of next year is when the last class ends. So it's mostly just virtual instructor led training. I do have a support team, so you'll meet Olivia. At some point, you might meet her today. We also have other instructors who have either retired from a healthcare leadership position or currently serving in a healthcare leadership position. And then we've got an instructional design team, and they report to Olivia. So we've got 22 people in our company. We're about to have a couple more, and we serve 300 to 350, almost 350 hospitals now across the country. And generally, when we get into our partnership like this with Texas Children's, we're with you guys for several years. So this is a good introduction to you all, but this is not where it ends. Certainly, we'll be spending a lot of time together over the next year or so and beyond. What else can I say? So we meet like every couple weeks. We do try to limit classes to no more than 3 hours. If we had an original class that was longer than that, we just went ahead and split it up over like a part one and a part two. There will be some more in-person classes. I think the next one's in June, I think, maybe July. It'll be like an NFPA type of class. I know Nathan Saxton, he's going to be seeing you guys. I'm not sure who's going to join him yet, but it'll be a couple days on site focused on some NFPA and some code compliance. Mike, do you have any certifications other than your master electrician?
Not for as like on the hospital side. No, I have like had an OSHA 30 and a whole bunch of training and stuff like that coming from construction.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Do you think that you'll pursue your CHFM?
Say that again?
Do you think you'll, there's a certification and,
Yes, I am pursuing that. I got with Francis, so that
yeah,
is something
Francis.
I'm pursuing.
Okay, cool. I asked because a lot of the content that we'll cover in this program will support you in preparing for the CHFM.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then Chris, you have your CHFM, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I do.
Cool. Yeah, congrats. What's your
Thank
background?
you. Fire alarm, fire suppression. Been here
Okay.
14 years, so I've been doing that the whole time here.
Okay. Do you have other certifications besides your CHFM?
I have NICET, fire alarm, fire sprinkler. Just did the senior mech, and I'm working on the CHC.
Nice. PhD will be a breeze for you.
Not really. I tried it once and I didn't do too good.
You know what? It's funny you say that. I took the CHC first, and what did I do? 90 days later, I took the CHFM. I performed better on the CHFM than I did the CHC. And I think that's probably that would be the same. I was surprised by some of the questions I got in CHC, but I think it's definitely designed for like a practitioner, for someone who's like been in the field in construction. But it shouldn't be too much, especially knowing that you're senior mech and CHFM. It won't take that long before you're based on the CHC.
Hopefully by next month.
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been in healthcare?
14 years.
Okay, so same the whole time as fire alarm fire
Mhm.
suppression. Okay. How long have you been in leadership?
I am about to start, so I have not
Oh,
been in leadership actually.
okay. What is your role now?
Right now, control tech, and
Okay.
on the 10th, I start as the life safety manager.
Nice to meet you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cool. Um, all right. So my role in this program is it's a couple of things. My primary role is to create space for you to stop and kind of break away from the intensity of healthcare facilities engineering, where there are just so many different demands on your time and your attention. And I'll create space for you to just have a talk with people that you work with, people that you trust, you're going to build relationships with, about leadership, and your leadership journey and some of the things that you want to work on. There will be some instruction, of course, in here too. And my role is not necessarily to tell you like this is the right way to do something, unless it's, of course, like code or like math. But otherwise, if it's a leadership focused discussion, it's more like, here's some different perspectives. Leadership is a topic that I've studied out my whole career, and I've gone through different like leadership institutes and been in different classes and I've read a book on leadership pretty much every day of my life. I'm reading something and consuming something. Really, really passionate about it. So I want to be able to share, some of the different perspectives that I've learned over the years and kind of keep what resonates with you. You might find that some of the things that we'll talk about maybe challenge the way that you have been doing things or the way that you approach leadership. And that's actually great because I find that for example, when I am challenged and someone has a different perspective, one of two things will happen. I'll either change my mind, and that's great because I've got a new perspective and new data to consider. I might not change it to completely 180, but I might change it to, a little bit, right? Just a little bit more information, a little bit more perspective. Or it will just reaffirm what I believe in. And that's great too, because then you're like really feel convicted and strong in what you believe in. The key is that we're probably, I doubt that we'll all agree on everything all the time. For example, like our last discussion, that we had a couple of different perspectives about, their approach to culture and how they might handle, an interview process or a hiring process, and that's okay. The idea is that we respect diversity of thought and that we approach these discussions with a curious mind. And as long as you can commit to having a curious mind and a growth mindset, you're going to do great. You're going to get a lot out of this program. There are a couple of items that we'll want to get checked off for both of you right away. Did you get the email about the Strengths Finder assessment?
I did that yesterday morning.
Oh, you did it yesterday. Okay, so we'll add you to the grid. Mike, did you get your email?
I think I got it. I ain't have a chance to do it yet. I think it's still have to have it completed by Friday, so I'm gonna try to knock it out between today and tomorrow.
Okay, cool. Whenever you do sit down and take it, um, don't do it during a time when you feel stressed. Make sure you've got plenty of time to take it as well. A lot of people struggle with this assessment if they feel crunched for time or if they're stressed, because what it'll present two options, and there will be times when you got to pick one, which one like is like speaking to you more, and there will be times where they'll both be speaking to you, but you've got to decide. And the best way to do that is just do it from like a relaxed, normal state. There'll be times when you see both and you're like, I'll just pick one. If you don't pick one, then it'll move on. Like it'll time out and like you'll lose your chance to give your input. So just go with your gut reaction in those cases. Just like be relaxed. You have plenty of time. It'll probably take you about an hour to do, is just go in thinking it's going to take you about an hour. Don't try to rush it. And then you'll get like a detailed report when you're done. When you get that report, you're going to fill out something called a user manual. And that is in the LMS. I'll go ahead and just like walk you through it so it makes more sense. And then I would encourage you to meet with the others in this group so you can exchange your user manual. The feedback that I got from them last time is that they learned a lot about each other exchanging those user manuals. So maybe don't exchange it with Miguel. It's Chris. Maybe you pick somebody else. All right, user guide. Actually, I'll show you the output for the Strengths Finder so you can kind of see what we're looking at. Okay. Whenever your results come in, we're going to pop you into this grid. And we can explain that next time. But you're going to be ranked in these 34 different areas. And the key here is not to think about strengths and weaknesses. There's a spectrum. So there are some things where we're naturally going to be stronger in, and there are other areas where we're going to not be as strong in. So for example, if you have a lower score on communication, I'm seeing a 31 and 32, this doesn't mean that you're a bad communicator. This might just mean that you are more of an internal processor, or that you prefer to write, or maybe that you just don't like, just like chit chat and small talk. Whereas someone who is higher in communication, they're probably a verbal processor. They probably just like to catch up with people and talk through things and like brainstorm and get input. Just very different styles of communication. So I urge you to not, when you get your reports back, to not think about, oh man, I'm really good at this or really bad at this. It's just there's a spectrum of how we do things. The key behind this model is that, especially as a leadership team, there's going to be a balance here. So this team so far is really strong in executing, where you might have more opportunities in, let's say, relationship building, which totally makes sense. In facilities engineering, most people are doers, right? You're sort of like wired. There's something that's broken, I've got to go fix it. There's a problem, I have to go address it. Like that's your whole job for the most part. Not a lot of your job is about building relationships, although you, of course, know that it is because you have to work with clinicians and administration and construction and vendors, but it's for the purpose of getting something done, of doing good work. So hopefully you have other people on your team where they are stronger in areas that are not naturally strong for you. So this is a really great job of showing the spectrum of where everyone is. And then as you continue to build your team and work with your team, you can understand how they are naturally wired and also build a team that has more of a balance. You're going to use that information and maybe we meet one-on-one for like 15 minutes once you're ready to do it, to go through this user guide. And maybe this is what you should do first. Whenever you get to that homework, just fill out this this part first. I'll make sure that it's in there as a Word document because then we'll talk about how to get it into your user guide. The idea here is that just like, every asset and equipment has like an operating manual. And so it's like, this is how we operate the chiller, the fire alarm system, this particular air handling unit. All of us have our own little user guide or operating manual. And wouldn't it be great if you could say, hey, this is how I'm naturally wired, and that's how it shows up at work. And that's how it shows up at work when I'm at my best. And I'm well fed. I got a good night's rest. Things are good in my life. I'm showing up at my best. That's like your balcony space. And then when you are hungry and tired and irritable, then you're showing up in your basement. So this is going to help you kind of pick those things out so you can helps you communicate that with your team. Um, Another thing that it will do is get you focused on how you build trust, which is going to be hugely important throughout this program, is how you can build trust with other people and how people can break your trust, and also your preferred communication styles. So like I prefer, hey, when we've got to talk about something, I prefer face to face or a phone call. Or I really prefer that I take in the information and I think about it and then I come back to you so we can talk about it. Or I need to write things down, first. That's how I prefer to communicate, and vice versa. So helpful. It's so helpful whenever you're leading a team and be like, this is how I prefer to communicate, and this is how I want you to communicate with me. So these questions will help guide you through that. And then we can meet and I'll tell you how to fill out the separate form. So any questions so far before we jump in today's class? Team, do you have any advice for Mike and Chris as they get into this?
I do
No advice. We
not.
go?
Hear-
Just participate. It makes it a little bit more fun.
So was someone asking if I could hear them? Who was that?
Yeah, that's me. My thing is acting crazy. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess it's okay.
It's like kind of it's like not coming in consistently, but we can hear you okay.
Okay, I'm working on it.
Okay. Today's topic is team member engagement. Just a couple of housekeeping rules for Chris and Mike. Thank you for having your cameras on. I find that it helps with the conversation and to hold us accountable to keep each other engaged. Definitely participate in the group activities. It's more fun for me and it's also more fun for you. It's more fun for everyone if we're all participating. We're just gonna get more out of it. You're like, think about your day. Like there are so few opportunities to have conversations like what we're going to be having. So just take advantage of it while you have that dedicated time block. However, if you do need to step out, as I might expect in a healthcare facilities environment, go for it. Just take the time that you need and then come back when you're able to. When you do want to engage in the conversation, you can just come off mute. If there's a lot of people in a discussion, just maybe someone's talking, but you want to let us know that like you got something to say, just raise your virtual hand in Zoom Do you guys know how to do that? In your toolbar, there's like a hand raise. You see it?
So, Ms. Leslie, I do have like 2 meetings today, so I might be going in and out because I
Okay,
got added on at the last meeting. But going forward, I'll make sure the meetings that we have set with y'all, I'll make sure I had those blocked out. But I
thank
had set of
you.
these I had set
Okay,
of these last week. So you might see me go in and out or going from one device to another device.
okay. That sounds good. Thanks for the heads up. This was recorded too. So if you do happen to miss one, you can always go back and listen or watch. All right. And we talked about diversity of thought already. Just try not to take so much airtime, but also make sure that you're engaging with the team. And then we're going to take a break about every hour. I try to honor that as much as I can. If we're like in the middle of a discussion or you have like a couple more slides left, I'll just go through it. Otherwise, I'm going to give us a break, a few minutes just to walk away and do what we need to do.
Lindsay, I apologize. I'm
Okay.
gonna have to step out for a minute. I have
Okay.
to attend to a contractor. I should be
Oh,
back. I should be back shortly.
all right. Thanks, Vicky.
Okay.
All right. So when I say employee engagement or team member engagement, basically the same thing. So what we're talking about is not, this is not like your mission statement. This is not a slogan. This is not your value statement. This is not like Ted Lasso, believe we're touching it as we're like going into the game. Like that's not what we're talking about here. Although those behaviors and those elements can make a difference, what we're really focused on is culture and what you are doing in your behavior as a leader to create clarity about expectations, clarity through your communication, how you are building a trust and fostering a culture of trust. You have a purpose. I find purpose is the easiest one in healthcare, especially at a children's hospital, right? Your work is so meaningful and it's fulfilling. It's making sure that everybody has a voice, that they feel heard and have an opportunity to feel heard, and then having a sense of accountability for yourself and for the team, and also for each other. I think it's really important that leaders hold each other accountable. So maybe you've heard this quote. It's a good one. Peter Drucker said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast," which means to me that we're really good at plans. We're really good at logistics, especially in healthcare. We have a management plan, a utility management plan, a safety management plan, life safety management plan, security management plan. We've got all these different management plans. We're really good at SOPs. We're really good at like all of these different procedures, which are necessary to keep everyone safe. Those are great. At the end of the day, culture beats all of that because culture is what's going to keep people engaged, which is so important in healthcare where the stakes are just simply higher. And I would argue that they're even higher in a children's hospital. Um, so culture simply to me, it's just like this is how we do things around here. That's like the simplest way I can think about culture. This is how we do things around here. And that will trump strategy all day long. So, with that in mind, that definition in mind, how would you describe employee engagement or team member engagement at Texas Children's? Hey, Joe,
Good morning.
you walked right into a discussion question. These guys are thinking about it.
Okay, well, I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
So, this is like between team members, like, the people are in our group, right?
Yeah, you could take it in that whatever approach, either like as an organization, which is like pretty global, but if you wanted to take it since it's something more local to your department or even your team,
Okay.
um, yeah.
So I think, I mean, obviously it's getting better, but um, I think it's hard to engage with. I mean, obviously the people that we work with all the time, we do engage with, but let's just say we've been divided, I guess, between healthcare and research. So there isn't a lot of communication between healthcare and research, or hasn't been. But that's changing. Um, so I think that's something that we are working on improving, and it hasn't always been the best. Um, I don't know if that answers, and maybe somebody can build on that, but that's just, I guess, my input on it.
Yeah. Okay. So I heard there's been some, I mean, I've heard this from you guys in the past, that there's been some pretty significant changes in leadership and the culture and then just other aspects. And you're seeing some improvements. What would be like the indicators that people are like the leadership team is trying to engage or that people are actively engaging with the rest of the team?
I think we have better communication now between different trades and managers as well. Um, one of the things I guess I get engaged with is the work order system. And so, I mean, I send out an update every Monday to let everybody know where we're at. Um, so I think the effort is being made to communicate what's going on, what are we seeing, um, and just try to get the communication flowing.
So the better communication is how you're seeing people engaging with each other at Texas Children's right now.
Yeah.
Okay. What other thoughts do you have?
I guess for me, since I just heard on, I have heard that the research and hospital, well, I ain't, heard it is kind of separated, but the way we're moving by trying to be under one umbrella and the way we're helping each other, I think is real beneficial from the guys and then also learning the different systems and the different buildings because everything is a little different.
Okay. Do you think that leadership proactively tries to engage, or do all of you try to engage with the rest of the team and to make sure that they're engaged? And if so, like other than communication, what might be some ways that you're doing that? And maybe I'll go back if that helps, thinking about ways that they're like daily leadership behaviors that create clarity, trust, purpose, voice, and accountability.
Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is driving me nuts. I'm sorry. That's why I'm listening. I
Okay.
think we've done a better job all the way up the chain, all the way up, obviously to Salem, of just really asking the question of how is it going, what do you need, what's going on. So we kind of make it a point to make sure to check on the guys, so we do open that dialogue, so we can start that engagement. Sometimes it's not all uh, positive, right? Even if it's just just a quick let me get it off my chest, deal that we can probably offer some perspective to, or just kind of give the guys, hey, if you're thinking about it this way or thinking about it that way, it kind of lets them get it off their chest, and then it opens that window to have the conversation, maybe behind closed doors, or just when we're we can take a quick walk and just kind of know how they really feel about it. So I think, like I said, when Salem kind of opened that door, it gave us all just a little bit more of that, kind of more of that rope so we can do the same. So the more he opens it, the more we can open it to the guys, and then that gets the flow going all the way up the chain.
Okay, great.
So like they're more comfortable now under his leadership. I feel like they're more comfortable knowing that if they let us know, we can let him know, and then things actually come about it because he does a really good job of following up.
Yeah, thank you for that. All right, so just creating space. I might even call that psychological safety, so that people feel comfortable raising issues, and that makes you then feel comfortable modeling that same behavior.
Yeah, I think another thing is, we started having quarterly town halls where the purpose of it was to have some clarity for the team and kind of, open the curtain so they could see what's going on in the background. And I think that's really helped, build trust in the team. And then also, uh, you know, kind of showing that roadmap. I know we talked about, when you're in the passenger seat and the driver, it's two different experiences, but that also, it's kind of given the employees and the team visibility into what's coming down the road. And that's really helped.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how like quarterly town halls and letting people know what's coming up would be really, really helpful. Okay. So um I'll give you a little bit more, but there are more discussion questions coming. So I think traditionally people think about engaged versus disengaged people in this mindset of like, someone is engaged when they take ownership of their work. They're accountable for their performance and they own up, to their mistakes as part of that. And they're also, I love this one, ambassadors for the organization's mission. Like they really speak to what your organization is about. And you can just like it's pouring out of them. They're showing up and everything sort of points back to that. Whereas someone who might disengage, they might underperform and blame others for their performance. Nobody told me. Nobody told me I wasn't supposed to do that. Nobody told me I was supposed to do that. Or like, yeah, I would have done that, but other person didn't do what they were supposed to do. So, why should I do it? Or, leadership always says that we have got to do it this way, but they don't do it. So why am I going to do it? So they're more likely to, they're unlikely to go above and beyond. So they're not going to take the extra effort outside their work. They're probably going to say something like, that's not my job. That's not my responsibility. And they're definitely not going to work beyond the minimum expectations or outside hours unless they're otherwise highly incentivized to do it. But I want to be careful here. These are probably characteristics that you've seen. Has everyone seen at least one person either engaged or disengaged at some point?
Yeah, we have both of those 100%. We have the ones that exactly do that. The ones who say, well, they didn't do it. Why do I have to do this? That's it's usually the same person who just has that, that kind of, I don't know, I hate to say mentality, but
yeah,
it's just them. Like we know that we have to sit down, talk, kind of pull them along, rather than just let them go off on their own. It's kind of one of those guys you got to kind of drag along and be like, you got to do this. This is the reason. This is why. This is why. And then we do have the other engaged team members who are like, what do you need? And then they're gone. Come follow up and give us, kind of quick updates or updates throughout, which is amazing. And we do have a shift that I've seen with the newer guys that we got because they're coming in hungry. It kind of engages the guys with that kind of slower, work ethic to be like, this new guy's coming in. So it kind of helps them kind of pick up the pace also.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen both of these in pretty much in every organization. If you're listening to you describe this engaged person, I wonder if any of those people will start to become, create a toxic work environment. And it is they become a cancer to your organization. They can. I don't know if I've had that experience. Um, I also want to be careful too, because sometimes, like, this sounds very judgmental against a disengaged person, but sometimes there could be like something else going on. Um, so for some people, yeah, like it's them, like you're the problem. And for other people, it's not a personality trait. Um, yeah, sometimes it's just a person where they don't feel supported, which could be any of those things that we were just talking about: clarity, trust, purpose, growth, and accountability. Like it's unclear to them what is expected. And they're confused. They feel like they can't get access to information for whatever reason. And by the way, that doesn't mean that that's true. That could just be their perception. Or maybe they've got trust issues, which could be of their own, or could have been created by an environment or a work culture that existed before. And so now they're bringing that into like new leadership or a new environment. Maybe they don't feel like a sense of purpose, in their work, or that they've got growth opportunities. Maybe no one's holding them accountable. Maybe they had some weak management or weak leadership before. Um, Maybe they used to be a high performer and they didn't really see the purpose anymore. And so no one's holding them accountable when they start to slack off. So it's not always a character flaw, although it can be. Um, I think it's really easy when we see disengaged person to label them as like lazy, or they've got an attitude, or they don't care. But it could be a sign that there's something else going on. So engaged team members will show ownership, follow through, initiative, and pride in their work. But when we start to see someone who starts all of a sudden they're quieter, they become less proactive, they're more withdrawn than they used to be. They become more reactive, like they're starting to get to like this reaction of like emotion or defensiveness. Or you could just tell like they're just like less invested than once they once were. That's then a sign of like, okay, something's happened here. And as a leader, now it's on us to do some investigation to figure out, what's going on. All right. So with that in mind, think about a person. Please don't name names. Save space. I don't think you would, but just let's not. Think about a person, past or present. It doesn't have to be a Texas Children's. It could be a hypothetical. It could be a real person from a different life, but who consistently gave discretionary effort, meaning that they would go above and beyond. They noticed the problems early. They stayed engaged when things got really tough. Um, they took ownership, positive and negative, and they cared about the quality of their work. And then also think about someone who's like the opposite of that. They did the minimum. They withdrew. They stopped speaking up, and they just like literally just seemed disconnected from the team and from the mission. So, what was different about those two employees, those two people? And then what was different about the conditions surrounding them? So, this is where I want to push us into like, well, they were behaving this way and they were behaving this way. That's important. But I think the more important issue is like, what were the conditions sort of like surrounding both of those individuals and how were they different?
Only condition I can think of offhand is their pay grade, or not necessarily the pay grade, but their pay. And
Okay.
saying, I'm doing this when so and so makes more than me, and he doesn't have to do half of this. And with it, most of it was just assumptions, right? Because they wouldn't know one way or the other what the other guy was making, but it was just assumed based on their title.
Okay. So compensation differences of influence someone's level of engagement. Perceived compensation differences. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. What else?
I think sometimes the environment leadership could make employees have their attitudes also. So a lot of times you feel like you're not being heard or you not being thought about or what you're doing, sometimes reflect their attitude into doing one of those two things. Because a lot of times a person want to be engaged and they want to feel like you're at least listening to them, not necessarily agreeing with everything you're doing, but you at least hearing them out about what the ideas of what you're doing or why you're doing it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. When you don't feel, maybe someone who's disengaged, they don't feel like heard, valued, or seen. Or maybe they lack clarity around expectations or why they should be doing it a certain way. Have any of you noticed a change in behavior when someone's personal life was going through, maybe they were going through a hard time outside of work?
Yeah, we have noticed that, and the focus is not there on the work. They're just their minds are wandering because they have other issues at home, and unfortunately, you're being brought into the workforce. You can definitely tell
Wow.
the difference
Yeah.
when they're engaged and not having issues at home, and then when they're having issues, you can definitely see the difference.
What does everyone think about that when you know someone is going through a hard time at home and maybe, there's a difference between like having a hard week or a day and having like a hard few months. Some life take a few months to go through. So what do you do when someone's going through a harder season in life and you can show it's showing up at work? Like how have you addressed that or how would you address that?
Sometimes you don't want to really step into what the issue is because it's a personal issue, but you just try to tell them if there's anything you can do for them. How's his day going? Just uh, kind of dance around the issue, but not directly tell them, what's going on at home. But just tell them if you have any issues here, uh, feel free to come and talk to us, and maybe he'll open up and say, "Hey, this is going on, and that's why I'm acting this way." But it's kind of a touchy subject there.
We also provide assistance with our EAP program, our employee assistance program. So just kind of getting that documentation to them and letting them know the the phone number and such to get a hold of someone and see if there's anything that possibly our organization can provide to just kind of depending on what they have going on at home. I mean, they provide counseling, sometimes financial help if they qualify and stuff. So that's something we have done in the past. Well, I have done in the past was just kind of let them know that we're here, and not only us as leadership, but the organization also has systems in place to assist and stuff like that. Quick check-ins usually helps me a lot with them.
How do people normally respond to that?
Some, depending on their tenure here, some knew that there was a program, just never really had access to it or never knew what it was called or kind of the number. But usually, gives them some sense of relief that, they can at least look into something, and sometimes just the fact of something being there helps.
Has anyone ever taken anyone out for like maybe not either out of the building or gone out for like coffee or lunch with someone to talk to them about what's going on, or you pretty much stick to your work environment?
I've taken people out for coffee or even lunch.
How did that go?
It was kind of along the same lines of what's already been said. Don't directly ask what the issue is. Just letting them know that they had my support, the organization support, anything that was going on. If they needed a little time, just communicate to me what basically their needs are, and we'll see if we can't meet them. And it went well. The couple of times that I've done it, it's been successful and greatly appreciated by the employee.
Hmm, that's good. Is that how you would want like your leader? So maybe let's say it's you, let's say it's you who's going through a hard time and like you're carrying out and like you're not showing up to work the way that you would want to or used to, and just with carrying around that in your mind and it's weighing on you. What would you want your leader to, what would you want like Salem to do or another
Well,
leader to do?
I can say that the present leadership that we have would address it in about the same way that I'm going about. I think that we would get a lot greater support from the leadership that we have at this time. In the past, when I've gone through this or something that was personal, the support wasn't there.
I'm sorry to hear that. What was your reaction when that happened? Like, what were you thinking and going through your mind? How to
Yeah,
laugh.
PG.
you want to know what I did or what?
I don't know.
No, I didn't receive it well. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, what were you, I guess, when
But
you're, yeah, go ahead.
in the past, we've had uh, leaders here that would assign you tasks
Mhm.
and give you very little direction. And at the end of it, if they were satisfied, you wouldn't hear anything about it. If they were dissatisfied, that's not what I wanted done. I said, well, why don't you tell me what you want done? Well, if I have to take your hand and tell you step by step what I want, maybe we got the wrong person for the job. Well, it's not that way now. I mean, there's everything that I've been tasked to take care of or to do or what's expected in the future is as clear as that I could ever ask for it to be.
Mm.
In the past, we've had people that didn't have a middle of the road until it came to, okay, that's not what I want done, and that became the middle of the road. With the middle of the road being, it just wasn't clear to you what the expectations were, and
Yeah.
there's a whole different way of doing things between. I mean, if you assign the same task to myself and all these other guys that are on here, we would all probably approach it in a different manner. There's not one way that would be wrong if you ended up getting the result that you're looking for. And I think that the past leadership, they didn't recognize that. It was you had to do it this way for it to be done right. Even though you got the result that was expected, you still didn't follow the path that they wanted that they would have followed.
Mhm.
But some I guess some people that would bother them. Me, it's done. I'm going on to the next thing, uh, and just let it go. But I very much enjoy what we have right now. Salem is clear as day about what his expectations are, and if you have a question, you can go sit down with him and have a conversation, not an argument, not confrontational at all. It is a clear as day conversation, and that's what I appreciate.
That was
I
so
agree.
insightful, Joe. Thank you. Well, you said you agree.
I agree 100%. And then that past regime, I guess, it was exactly like Joe said. Exactly. But some of us, it's just what we're used to, right? We have an objective. We are the tip of the spear. Go do this is what you got to do. And like you said, we all go our own ways, but we get it done. And sometimes it's the way they want it. Sometimes it's not. But regardless, it gets done. So let's move on. I'll take whatever constructive criticism I can from it, learn from whatever I have to. But ultimately, the job's going to get done regardless. And then so we obviously try to be more transparent with our team and just if need be, right? So like I can speak for Rick and Ricky, where we've had these conversations. We've done the initial kind of training or how I proceed with things, how I do things, and it just as a guide, right? Hey, this is how I do it, and this is what tracks for me, and it's always shown to work. But then so when these guys do it, and sometimes they go one step out of the order, but it gets done, and if that's what makes it easier for them and kind of makes more sense in their head, as long as the outcome is good, I mean, I'm totally happy with it, and I never say, hey, you didn't do it my way. Sometimes I'm learning from them, and they say something, I'm like, huh, that probably was a better way to do it. So just kind of taking that two-way path, and showing them what you've done, what they've done, and then just kind of learning, so that way for the next group, they have an even easier path.
Awesome. That was really insightful. I heard several things. Yeah, and you both did a great job of expressing times when you've got a great employee, but under those circumstances, they feel like they are just disengaged because they don't have the support or the environment, leadership. And the things I heard that make a big difference, at least to this team so far, is clarity. This is what's expected, but also a balance with autonomy, meaning I'm going to give you agency and the freedom to do it to meet what is expected, the clear expectations. And if there's any friction between clarity and autonomy, then I'm going to create psychological safety so that we can have a respectful conversation coming from a place of curiosity and support, and we can agree that we're on the same side, but we're just trying to figure out, how to reduce the friction between autonomy and clarity. I've also found that taking people out of the office makes a huge difference. There's something that happens when you remove people from their work environment where it's like, I've taken work person and now I'm just looking at person. Because when you're in the work environment, some people feel like they've got to perform a certain way or behave a certain way, talk a certain way. But you sort of like the slightest adjustment, and maybe it's just to the cafeteria, maybe it's just around the block, maybe you're just like literally just walking outside with them. Movement helps a ton too. I find that people really start to open up when like you're shoulder to shoulder with someone. So you might notice like if you're driving somewhere or walking down a hallway or outside with someone, some people will start to open up a lot more than if like you're face to face with them. And you don't even have to say much. I think sometimes when people get uncomfortable with the pauses and the silence, that they'll just try and wrap up the conversation. This is getting awkward. This is getting emotional. Like, I'm just going to move on. But if you just sort of like sit with some of those open-ended questions, go like, how are you doing really? Hey, I've noticed some changes in you recently. Are you doing okay? Like, how are you doing? How's your family doing? And again, not trying to like make assumptions or accusations, but allowing them space to answer that question. I've observed this behavior in you. This says I'm not being punitive. I've noticed that you seemed a little stressed lately. I've noticed you've been a little distant before. You're showing up in a different way. How are you? That can make a big difference. Have you guys noticed that as well in the conversations that you've tried, or something different?
It makes sense face to face
Yeah.
meet, like you said, sometimes it just gets awkward. Like, all right, like I'm just tired of staring at you. It's awkward. It's gotten quiet. So let me just divert. So okay, well, let's we'll see you later. Let's just move on to whatever else we were doing. So that shoulder to shoulder, I wrote it down because that makes a lot of sense to me for some reason.
Yeah. Especially if you can get people doing something with their like walking or moving or doing something with their hands. That and then and that way, like in the quiet, there's still something to do. And then they can come back when they're ready, they form their thought or they feel like they're ready to like share more. They're still doing something in that space rather than when you're sitting at a
Yeah.
table and you're just like, okay, all right, we don't have anything to do but stare at each other. Okay. We've talked about, I think we've talked about this. One, people not receiving enough information, that can certainly disengage people. If they don't understand the potential consequences, like I find sometimes you may have told them, in every communication form, in a meeting, in a memo, in an email, one-on-one, at a huddle, and and people will still say, I didn't know. It is amazing, but it happens all the time. People are like, okay, I've told you. They're like, I don't know. I haven't heard that before. And you're like, yes, you did. But I think what helps people learn is, first of all, you have to repeat it just to the point where you think you've said it 1,000 times. You're probably going to have to say it 1,000 times more. And that's just, you've got to accept that. People need to hear things multiple times before they really like soak it in. And it helps to know what the potential consequences of either doing the thing or not doing the thing. If you don't do this thing, this is the potential. We do this because, they need to understand the why. Um, Also, if there's no like backup plan or contingency, so people might disengage, for example, if they're feeling short-staffed or they don't have the right skill set, they need to know, okay, like we've got a shutdown coming up, or we've got a construction project coming up, or there's something coming up and we feel understaffed. And it's just like, if the answer just simply is, we'll figure it out, people will disengage when they feel frustrated, like their manager or their leader doesn't have a plan to help, navigate those situations. And then I also find that too many opinions in the mix. You Democratic leaders have to be careful about this because you want input from everyone, but ultimately, you're the one who has to make the decision. And so when you're getting all this feedback and different perspectives, as long as you're using that in a way, and remember we talked about like not all input is the same. Some input is more of high quality than other input that you receive from others. Or if you're getting like directions from, have anyone else been in a situation where they're getting like mixed signals from like one leader and another leader, and you're like, what do I do? Where someone's telling you how to do it one way, and then another one is like, no, 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 this is your priority, or no, no, we do it a different way. And you're like, I guess I'll do nothing, or I'll try and figure it out myself, or I'll try to like appease, both of them. People, when they feel confused, that can start to create some friction. And then when you see people who are engaged, I heard this a lot too from you, that they feel valued, and the value doesn't come in of like, well, I guess I'm doing a good job because I'm not hearing from my leader. I've heard that a couple times from you guys. I feel like I'm valued because someone's told me I'm valued, and it's sincere and it's specific. Or they feel like they have, opportunities to grow. And maybe it's not growing vertically. Maybe they can grow like horizontally, like it's a lateral move. Like, I was in this position and I developed a skill, but I have an opportunity to learn, a new skill. They feel like they've got a voice. So we talked about psychological safety and trust, of course, with clear, consistent, and backed by action. So I wanted to ask another question. I think we can describe kind of like when someone is engaged or disengaged, but I think it's also really helpful to talk about, okay, what do those behaviors look like? Like what have you noticed that is observable and concrete it's going to be really important to start to pick out these behaviors because at one point you're going to have a conversation with someone, either to be like, hey, thank you so much for being invested and engaged. I've seen these behaviors, really helpful. Or, hey, I've noticed these behaviors and I'm sensing that, there's disengagement or distance. So what are some examples of that?
Taking leadership. Sometimes we need someone to, let's say we have 200 that do the rounds, mechanical rounds, and sometimes a person that's going to take it is not here that they've either they're just off or whatever the case is. And leadership, when someone says, "I'll go ahead and take it,"
Mm.
so they're engaged. And then you have other ones that you can see that they don't want a part of it at all. So you see the difference.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right. So the difference between someone stepping in or stepping up versus someone who's like silent or like actively saying, nope, I'm not going to do that. What else have you seen?
Well, another one is if you give two people work and one doesn't complain at all, I mean, you give them the same work, they're gonna go do the work together. And one says, why do I have to go do? I got other things going on. And the other one says, sure, he's ready to go and tackle it. So, that's the difference between one employee to another.
Mhm. All right. So their behavior would be that they're disengaged is complaining or resisting. So maybe one might be communication. Have you seen that where maybe people who are more engaged tend to ask more questions or provide solutions either during a one-on-one or group setting? I also find that people who are engaged and they're feeling valued, like they're happy to spotlight other people. This is and we're not trying to like characterize or like these are general rules, but I've seen that when someone's like really in it and they're behind the mission and they're feeling like they're part of the team, they're like so happy to like give compliments or accolades to their teammates because they want to share what they're feeling, inside.
Yeah, I think here lately, we haven't had much of those issues. Everybody seems to be happy to engage in doing the work. Since we have a new team, well, we still have a lot of older guys that have been here longer, but right now the attitude is great. So we're not really seeing much resistance as far as
That's good.
people engaging in work. So it just things in the past, but currently, I think we're in a good place.
Awesome. In the past, did you have a problem with people blaming others?
Uh, yeah, a lot of pointing fingers. I get more work than the other person with not even knowing whether that's true or not, just assumptions, and that you start uh, having those words around and then other people start thinking the same way, and it just one bad apple will spoil the rest. But we don't have that issue right now. Currently, everything is good. I feel like we're in a good place.
That's great. That's usually one of the early warning signs for me is when people start blaming either the system or another person. When I start seeing like pointing fingers and blame, that's like an alarm and like a red flag in my head of like, okay, this person they're deflecting, they're disengaged. Either something's happened and I need to like get down to it. Um, and I also see where they're like sometimes triangulation, where they're feeling disengaged and blaming. So they'll start to create like this triangulation behavior between two two people, like maybe it's like me and you, and then now there's like a third person, and they're like now trying to pit me against like the second person, and like they've got conflict. And so like they're creating like these triangles of conflict. That's also like, okay, now two alarm bells are going off. Like first one is we were blaming, second one is now we've got like this weird triangulation thing happening. And then like the third, like the next escalation I've seen after that is where they'll start to put like hard rules in place. Where like, I'm not doing that anymore. I won't work with that person anymore. I don't talk to that person anymore. And I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? And that to me is like this person is so disengaged that now they're just trying to like reclaim whatever control they feel like they've lost, whatever autonomy or respect they feel like they've lost. Now they're like putting up like these walls and barriers to like regain back their voice.
I think going back to what Joe and V said, and they said it uh, pretty. They hit the nail on the head. It starts with management. If management is doing what they're supposed to and they're engaging correctly with their employees will do anything. So it trickles down, whether it's
Yeah,
good or bad.
that's yeah, that's true. That's true. I have found that to be true both as a leader and a follower, is that people will do just about anything you ask them to do if they believe in you as a leader. I'm doing a time check. I think we might have one more little section. Let's take a break. Um, so maybe examples that you can see like observable behaviors in your world, and I'm sure there's a whole laundry list of them. But just closing work orders with care and not just speed. So someone who's not like pencil whipping, or just closing things out, but they're actually like really taking time to make sure things are done right and that people are satisfied, the customer satisfied, the team satisfied, people are taken care of. They're like flagging risks before they become failures. So they're the eyes and the ears of your facility. And so they'll say things like, this isn't my house. No, this is my house, this is our house. And if I see something, an issue going on in my house, I'm going to say something before it becomes a bigger deal, or I'm going to take care of it. And they may or may not even let you know they took care of it. They communicate with clinical, so they're thinking about other people who are involved. They don't get like so like laser focused on just like, oh, I've got to get this done. They're taking the time of like, who else is impacted, by my work. How can I bring them into the conversation? Um, they like you were saying before, like you need help. Yeah, I'll help. You've got an emergency. What can I do to help? I'm here to serve. And I think this one's big, is the integrity piece. Of like, we all know what the code of conduct is. We all know what the expectations are, how to keep our patients safe, how to do the work correctly. And then, are you going to do that when no one else is watching? You're going to be accountable to yourself. So when you notice a change in any of this, so rather than think of like, what is wrong with this person? Which is usually like the emotional initial reaction of like, oh, I don't like that behavior. What is wrong with you? It might be like, okay, what am I missing? What else could be contributing? I'd like to believe, giving everyone the benefit of the doubt. Like we're gonna believe like everyone is just here to do good work and they're a good human being and they're here to serve the patient. So when I'm not seeing that, like what could be contributing to that change or what I'm seeing? And then really the big thing I think is to address it as early as possible. I was talking about that 3-tier system of like, first it starts with blaming. That's like one alarm bell. The second is triangulation. And the third, it gets like they're now building up walls. Well, I want to try to get it to that first alarm bell because at that point it's just a pinch. But this person's probably going to fester. they're probably going to try to bring other people into their rage bubble. It starts to become like the cells multiply like cancer, and if like you don't get that early, like it can grow so quickly. And you know what? They're probably right in some of it. Like there's probably something that they are seeing, and they don't feel like they're being heard and valued. And of course, there are bad apples. Like there are people who are just, you're like, oh, how did you even get into our organization? And people have been there forever. And you're like, yeah, how do I get rid of them? But most of the time, there's something else going on, right? And we've got to try to catch that as early as we can. Um, so it can come from several different sources. I'm going to go through these five, and then we're going to take a break. I'll go through these pretty quickly just so we can advance the conversation. Sometimes people are just tired or frustrated. They're just having, a bad day, and maybe they feel overloaded. I've seen this a lot too. When people feel overwhelmed and overloaded, they freeze. And I know like a lot of people, when they're feeling overloaded, rather than doing something on their list, they pick up their phone and they're like, how do I escape the overwhelm? And then now they're scrolling on their phone. They're like, oh, yeah, let's look at this YouTube video or TikTok about something about, how someone else is, being ridiculous right now. So I don't have to think about the real world that I'm going to have to face. And that can, and so like that can look like disengagement. Um, and when people are feeling like there's so many emergencies or like the team is short staffed and they don't see like a light in the tunnel because either they don't know that there's a solution or they don't understand, what's ahead, they'll start to escape. And sometimes people are just tired, right? Like sometimes someone's just, hopefully, this is usually like a shorter period of time, but they're tired for whatever reason, they're not getting enough sleep or rest that they need. So, you told me what the things that you would do, which is just check in. I think one of the best things you can do for someone like this is also help them clarify what their priorities are. So if they're feeling overwhelmed, be like, okay, I hear you. I'm going to give you one thing. Can you do this one thing? Okay, cool. I'm going to check on you. How long is it going to take you to do that one thing? Okay, I'm going to check on you in like what, at lunch and see how we're doing. I just need you to do this one thing. And that immediately, like they can like lock in and get that done. So help them with prioritizing. You may have heard something like getting like the right people on the bus. So when we're like building a team, we want to get like the right people on our bus. And the other thing is making sure they're in the right seat. And so a lot of that comes from the situational leadership model that we were talking about of like sometimes there's just like a mismatch between like you've got talent for days and ambition. We just given you like a wrong job. Like we've done you a disservice and not put you in the right role. And like I've seen people like totally transform into a different human being. I'm like, who's this person? Like, where did this come from? Just by like moving them into a different job that they feel passionate about, they feel like they have a skill set for, they're empowered to do their work, that can really change. So when you're seeing this, and we're going to talk next time about performance improvement and goal setting. So if you're sensing like a mismatch, just like name it right away and be like, by the way, this is like not a you problem. Like you're not performing. I want to find out why. Did I not show you how to do this? Do we feel like we need to give you more support or training in a certain area? Or maybe we just need to find you like a different job that like you can like get excited about. If you can, you don't always have the luxury of just like having open positions that you can move people to, but maybe you can give them a task that they're super excited about and that adds value to the team. Also broken systems, right? People get disengaged when there's just like a lot of friction in their work. So it's on leaders to identify what is causing that friction and do our best to remove it. One way that you can do this is during your one-on-ones. So like maybe they're not meeting expectations or they're disengaged. Maybe they're frustrated and venting to you. So like during your one-on-ones, like what's causing you friction right now? What are some of the hurdles that you're facing at work and how can I help remove them? So you want to look at the barriers that are getting in their way and seeing how you might be able to improve a process so the team can just, do the work that they want to do. And the last one would be poor management practices. So especially if they've come from an environment where there was a weak leadership, which could be characterized by they weren't communicating all the things that you said. People weren't consistent. They weren't communicating. There was a lack of follow through. They weren't recognizing people for doing good work. They weren't creating like this culture where we value each other. Or maybe there was like micromanagement and you just feel like you're like under like a thumb all the time. So people start to shut down, of course, right? They're gonna shut down. So as a leader, if you have a history, and it sounds like you do, you have a history of this happening, the greatest thing that you can do as a leadership team is to bring back everyone's voice and say, like, no, you have a voice now. And I'm actually going to show you have a voice because I'm going to create an environment of psychological safety. I'm going to raise issues. I'm going to give you recognition so you feel like you can recognize others. I'm going to give you so much support. I'm going to give you so much support. And this is exactly how I'm going to give you that support. So just think about, here's a history of leadership problems in the past. What would the exact opposite of that look like? And how can I contribute to that type of workplace? And then, of course, there are true conduct issues. Like you said, like some people are just not compliant, they're disrespectful, they're unwilling to help. And there's a process for that, right? You got your performance improvement plan, you've got, you're working with HR at that point. The key is to treat everyone like their dignity. Regardless of how they're bringing themselves into your work environment, into the team, as a leader, the best thing you can do is still allow someone to lead with dignity. Now they can bring themselves down, right? But like a self like respect and dignity to the very, very end is what we have to do as leaders. Okay, so we will take a break as promised. I'll give you until the half hour. So we'll come back at 10:30. All right.
All right, are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some things you can do, which is just lean into what you can control and be honest with your team about what you can't. So what that means is if you know that people are getting disengaged, if they're burning out, if they're frustrated, name it, call it. I think people will respect that also. When we do that, when we sort of like name it and call it, we're not allowing their creativity and assumptions and bias to start crafting a different story. So, like if it's short-staffed, we don't have resources, if there's someone, who's creating a lot of friction on your team, like, hey, I know we're going through some things right now. There's friction. This is what's happening. This is what I am doing to the extent you can. Of course, you can't ever break someone's confidence. I've been in situations before when I was going through a performance improvement plan with someone. They were making one of my high performers' lives just absolutely miserable, like to the point where this other person was crying. They were questioning like how much I value them and respect them. And I had to call them. So we're in a remote team. Otherwise, I would have gone to them in person. And I said, I know you're in a really frustrating situation. I promise I'm doing everything I can. I couldn't say that this person's on a PIP. I couldn't say that I was having hours of discussion, which by the way, like distracts you from your primary objective at work when you've got, an employee that you're going through performance issues with. Like that consumes so much of your time. So I had to conceal that as well. And I just said, I just need you to trust me that in 30 days and definitely in 90 days, this is going to be a totally different work environment. I'm doing everything I can. I'm going to give you the space that you need. I'm going to give you, some other things to work on. I can't fix everything. I couldn't fix them working with this other person at a certain level. But I said, I'm having conversations that I need to have. I'm doing everything I can. I have a plan and I'm working on it. But I could only give away as much information to protect the other person's dignity and confidence. So that's what I was saying before we went on break is, still allowing someone dignity and respect. And if they are making themselves look foolish and immature or unprofessional, like that's on them. But it's on us to create an environment where people are respected, even if we feel like they don't deserve it. And to be as honest as we can, but not oversharing. So I think a lot of this comes down to working on your EQ or your emotional intelligence. So even for those of you who after StrengthsFinder empathy didn't score very high for you, that's okay. What we've learned about EQ is that it is a skill that you can work on. And a lot of times it just starts with being very self-aware and then also working on those communication skills with the ones who you are serving or leading. So I've got a couple of books. I normally save these until the very end, but I'm going to talk through some of them about what I've learned from reading these books. This first one is The Emotionally Intelligent Leader, Daniel Goleman. So he's focused on 3 competencies. So he recognizes that despite what we think about like empathy or being able to like build relationships, being naturally like a connector with other people, if you are more like analytically minded, maybe you are more achiever minded, execution minded, that's okay. You can still work on being more self-aware, regulating yourself and your behaviors, and even empathy. So first of all, is doing a lot of the work that we've done already and that we'll continue to do. It's just these reflections. So you started with the StrengthsFinder. You filled out your user guide. You've answered some reflection questions, up until this point. And that is helping you gain self-awareness. Who am I as a leader? Who do I want to be as a leader? What are the gains I've made as a leader? And what is the gap that I still seek to fill? That's self-awareness. Also knowing that you're not going to be showing up every day the way that your ideal leader version of you is. And being respectful of yourself and giving yourself grace when you fall short and just say, nope, that was a moment, that was a setback. That does not define me of who I am. So self-awareness comes into recognizing when you're at your best, but also recognizing that your shortcomings do not define you. And then self-management is controlling your behaviors, which is tough because all eyes are on you and at work, and people are watching you to see, what is the standard? Where's the bar? And I think the hardest part, a lot of people don't talk about this, as a high achiever, and I imagine I'm looking at a lot of high achievers right now, is that that seems to become like the expectation. It's no longer about like, this is a win, this is what I've achieved. It's just like, I'm expected to achieve. I'm expected to lead. And that's just like maintenance at this point. And every time like I raise the bar, I've got to raise it again. Whenever you're first starting out, you're making look at all these certifications, and now I've got a promotion. It's like, wow, like I'm on this trajectory, and you get to a point and you're like, this is the expectation. And everyone's like watching me because I am the leader and all eyes are on me. And I basically like set the tone for our team. And so what that means is EQ is exercising those impulses. So when someone comes to you and starts venting, to listen, but not react and respond and feed into it. When someone has triggered you and you want to tear down a wall, to just like taking a breath and stepping out and taking the time and space you need before reacting, and knowing that you don't have to react in the moment. Like exercising control of like, you can be out of control, but I can choose to control myself, even if that means removing myself from you. So people are going to like look at you and say, okay, like, does this person have integrity? Are they resilient? Do they have control over their emotions? Can I trust them? And then empathy is considering other people's feelings. Your behavior is going to affect how people feel. What you say will affect how people feel. Obviously, that's going to contribute to how engaged they feel like they want to be or they want to be. So you have to work on being very intentional about building relationships, especially if that doesn't come natural to you. Being intentional about connecting with others and making time for others, that you see them not as a work person, but as person. You have to drive engagement. That's got to come from you. And then you have to be the one to handle conflict. Like, even if you're like, I hate conflict, I avoid conflict, that can be true anywhere else except where you are expected to lead. Because in conflict, ultimately it takes a leader to step up and resolve it. So if you tend to find yourself shying away from conflict, like lean into that, like challenge yourself and be like, why am I doing that? Because it never gets better with time. Like bad news and bad situations don't get better with time. They almost always get worse. And so you've got to think like, how long am I going to tolerate this tension and this behavior? So yeah, empathy is thinking about how other people are affected. So I did talk about leadership styles when we very first met. And this book also talks about leadership styles. So I tried to connect them to the ones that we had already discussed. The new one here is visionary. So thinking about ways of like, okay, how can I build emotional connection, build relationships with the people I serve so they can trust me and they feel safe following me. So some people will set like a vision, and these are people who like inspire and galvanize people around a purpose. And you just want to listen to them and they make you feel good. This is like the Tony Robbinses of the world, right? You're like, yes, I need more than that. I feel like I can like climb a mountain right now, just like having that conversation. They make you feel so great and set that vision. Whereas some people use coaching. these are the servant leaders that we talked about in the beginning. And so they're always thinking about how to develop people for their future. Other leaders will connect through affiliative or that empathetic, where they're really trying to seek harmony in the team. And they're building emotional bonds with the team. So they're creating time and space for that. Democratic, where they're like looking through consensus through participation. This pace setting one is mostly aligned with autocratic style. They're setting standards for high standards for performance. And then commanding, we didn't talk about this one. That's your authoritative. And this sounds like perhaps you have seen this regime in your work environment where you had someone who was very commanding or authoritative, where it's like they are demanding immediate compliance. It is my way. It's not my way or the highway. It is my way, and it's my way. So these will all have an impact, obviously, on your team and their willingness to serve you. So what you want to do is, by building your EQ, you will see better team performance, higher employee satisfaction, and the outcomes that you are trying to achieve with your team. The other book is Emotional Intelligence. This one really gets into some like strategies and applications or skill sets. There is an online assessment with this one. So if you loved StrengthsFinders so much and you're like, I want to learn more about myself, you can you can like measure your EQ. So you're wondering, you're like, I wonder where I am in the scale. You can take this online assessment to see where you are. A lot of the things that we were just talking about in that last book show up in this one. So self-awareness, like you can't escape it. Managing yourself, can't escape it. Social awareness, that we were just talking about that with the different leadership styles, which also includes that relationship management. And then the tools that it covers is that assessment in the book to measure your EQ. There's another one too, this emotional intelligence test that assesses how well people perceive, use, understand, and manage their emotions. So 2 little assessments for you. There's so many apps on mindfulness. Mindfulness is really helpful in that impulse reactionary piece, where if you feel like you've been triggered in the past by behaviors from other people, and you want to do something about that, you're like, I've got a real problem on my hands. Like I want to have more control and agency over my emotions in the moment. Where do I begin? Mindfulness is a great way to do that. It doesn't take a lot of time. I think when a lot of people think about mindfulness, they're like, oh my gosh, these like granola yogi people who are like, journaling and drinking matcha. Like that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like gaining back control over your thoughts and therefore your emotions and behaviors. So you can go through a guided meditation. There are couple different apps for this, but the way to begin though is at some point and during your day, especially when you're feeling an overwhelm, is just to like pause and see if you can go as long as you can. 1 minute. 1 minute's really hard to do in the beginning. 1 minute without thinking of anything else, just clearing your mind. And if you can learn to clear your mind even for 1 minute, and if a thought creeps in, and it will, recognize it, let it go. Back to mindfulness. Recognize it and let it go. Back to mindfulness. Keep practicing that. You will build up the skill that will help you in those moments later on when you can, like your blood feels like it's going to boil out of like your eyeballs and ears, and you could just like pick up anything and just smash it to pieces. Mindfulness will help you take that rage or that sense of like overwhelm and help you get down to a level where it's like very manageable for you. So mindfulness is a great practice. Journaling is another way of like, we've talked about journaling in other classes. Again, this doesn't have to be like a big exercise. This doesn't have to be like, now I've got to wake up an hour early or stay up an hour later and like journal all my thoughts. And I've got like this diary. It's like, no, like what is on your mind right now? If it's on your mind, you're carrying those thoughts with you all the time. If you journal them and get it out, now you feel like you've gained control over those thoughts and those feelings. So a lot of times we start to like ruminate, which is like thinking about the past, or anxiety will build up thinking about the future. And we do that because it's something we can do with those thoughts and feelings. I can't do anything about the past. I can't change it. And I don't know what's going to happen to the future. I can't do anything about that. So I'm just going to like think about it and problem solve and like make up solutions to problems that don't exist yet. So journaling is actually a great way just to like do that in like a definitive time. So like 5 minutes, like what am I worried? I talked about like your worry time. 5 minutes, write it all down. So that way when I go to bed later, I'm not carrying the past thoughts with me or like the future anxieties with me. I've been able to do something with it and check it off my list and move on. If you're curious about like how does my team perceive me as a leader, there are tools for that. 360 is one of them. Another one is just to create a survey, and you can make it anonymous. SurveyMonkey has free survey options, so you can set up an anonymous survey like, "Hey team, I'm going through this leadership program. We talked about engagement and some leadership styles recently. It's got me thinking about how I can be better as a leader. Can you answer, they take like 5 minutes and answer these questions for me. You don't have to put your name. It's completely anonymous. I won't know who said it. Feel free to be as brief or give as much context as you want. This is something that I'm really committed to being like the best leader I can be to serve this team. So SurveyMonkey would be a great way just to get feedback from your team about how you're doing, where you're on the spectrum. Okay, so we've talked about some bad behaviors for different reasons. Sometimes we've got bad apples, and sometimes like people are in bad situations. So discussion for this group is how do you hold people accountable while still creating an environment where people can thrive? Any thoughts on this?
I'm reading, I think just consistency.
Okay.
Have the same level, uh, all the way across the board, right? Everybody meets the same criteria in order to keep moving.
Consistency was
don't be
high for you.
blocked.
Yeah, two. Two is your consistency. I knew that. As soon as you said consistency, I was like, gosh, I know we've talked about this. Yeah, you've come from a world where consistency really matters. And so that's one of the trademarks of your leadership style is being consistent with your team. Yeah, so I think consistency holds people accountable.
It keeps HR away from you also.
Yeah, you've said that before too. Yeah. What else? How do you hold people accountable while still allowing them to thrive?
By having check-ins, maybe.
Yeah.
Every so often, just so you're getting closer to a deadline. You're not just kind of stagnant, sitting still. Keep moving.
Yeah, check-ins make a big difference. I was listening to an idea this morning about you already have like daily huddles. In this context, they were called stand-ups. So you have a daily check-in with the team. Very first thing, everyone's getting together. Who's doing what today? So everyone has like a visibility to what they're doing. And like, okay, I need this from you. Hey, are you gonna be able to get me that thing? Okay, and then you're gonna get that to me by 9. Okay, then I can do what I need to do. Can you give me that information or get that filled in? Okay, cool. Then I can go about. So everyone's sort of like talking about what they need from the team so they can get their work done for that morning. Um, And then like before lunch, everyone meets again to check in to see if they actually did the thing that they were going to do in that stand up. I have never done that, but I thought that was like such like it's so simple and so smart of like every day we're gonna and so rather than waiting until like the next morning, right? It's like, okay, you said you were gonna get this to me at 9, it's 11 or 11:30, whatever. Oh yeah, and now people like feel a sense of responsibility and accountability at like in a way that they didn't before. Because when it's day to day, or like, oh yeah, I'll get it to you tomorrow, or like, oh yeah, I forgot, I'm sorry, and like a whole day has gone by, and yet someone hasn't been able to do their work, right? Because they're still waiting on someone else. I mean, Joe,
Yeah.
you said it. Oh, good. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was saying what Valty said about check-ins.
Yeah.
I do check-ins also individually with the different techs. Just to make sure that the PMs are being done by the end of the month. So I consistently check every month to make sure see where they're at, and whether it's good or bad. They seem to like it that I'm following through, and wherever they fall in the crack, I'll pick up and tell them, hey, these are still missing, and they kind of like it so far. They've told me that they like that I go behind and whatever they missed, I catch it and I just tell them, here, this is what you missed, and they go behind and close it out. That way, stays consistent every month.
Thank you for that. Yeah, you've given us a great example of how you can make a check-in not feel punitive, but actually feels like very supportive. So you can recognize the work that's been done and also be like another QC check, for your team as a way to support them.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we have Miguel checking up on everybody.
Thanks, Miguel.
So I got a question, and this is like an honest question. So how, like, I guess it's a question for everyone. Like, how do you hold people accountable? Like, I guess whenever without being like over, like sending 50 billion emails on them, because a lot of times, I try to get a response and I don't get it by the time it's due. So then, I'm in that struggle with like, hey, do I call them? And then, obviously there's other things going on. So like whenever you're constantly not getting a response, well, like how do you address that?
I've got some thoughts, but I want to give your team a chance to help you out.
I think just don't worry about being uncomfortable, because most of that's just like, oh, great, I'm about to see this guy in a few minutes. And you're right. I mean, we're so fluid
No,
here.
yeah.
Sometimes it just gets passed. Right? It's
And
not saying it doesn't, but I mean, I think just take that uncomfortability out of it, because it's your job. So it's not really, and you don't mean it in a in a derogatory way. You don't mean to be ugly. You're just doing your job. And I think that's just the main part of it. Once you get past that little uncomfortable feeling, just because it's just not your, you're not very, you're not argumentative. You don't like that kind of stuff, which is fine. But when you stop thinking about it that way, it kind of stops affecting you.
Yeah, don't take things personal. Just because you're gonna address it with the individual, it's all business. So it's not like you're after him personally. It's part of your job. So you have to engage that way.
Miguel, do you feel like that's the issue? Is that you're not being confrontational enough, or you're worried about how other people are going to think of you if you come down harder on them?
No, I don't. I mean, it's not. I guess as a PM, a lot of times, like it's a little different than a manager because, managers have employees. I don't have employees, so it's a little different. I have, people that I'm asking for stuff that don't report to me. So I don't have, it's not like I can write them up or I can do anything like that. I, I'm needing something, but at the same time, they don't work for me. So that's the part that I struggle with. And it's not no one in the group, it's just in general, as a PM, we're told to hold people accountable. And obviously on deadlines, you communicate the deadline. Um, Most of the time, you make it by the deadline and you're doing those check-ins to make sure that we're going to meet the deadline. But then there's those times where you have one team member that either isn't engaged or has too much going on, and then what we're asking for is a lower priority for them, but at the same time it's a high priority for me because it's my project. So that's the part that I struggle with is how do you make that person accountable when they don't have I guess, like they don't have to be, I guess.
CC
I've
their boss. CC their boss on the emails.
that's
Well, trying to
passive
avoid,
aggressive.
trying to avoid, but yeah, okay.
That's the
Um,
conversation right there.
you could that is a choice. And it might be the only one you have. So I've been in your situation, not exactly, but a very similar situation. I as I was an owner's rep for a healthcare system, and had like 70 hospitals across the country, and we had a 500 million capital renewal plan that was spread across 70 hospitals. And they would like request different infrastructure projects. And these projects were small. So they had a $3 million cap. So they were just infrastructure projects. So like switchgear, roof, chiller, maybe design work, of a phased capital project. But so small projects because there was $3 million cap budget. So we would see things anywhere from like 50,000 to 3 million. And they had to be done in 1 year. So there were a lot of projects. And my job um, I was like this facility infrastructure and capital like program manager or whatever. And I had to get with each PM at all the different hospitals. There might be more than one project and get a status for our monthly meeting. And ideally, I was getting like weekly updates from them. But that was made of dreams and wishes. It was like pretty much like the day before is when I'm trying to like get all this information that I've been asking for basically for weeks. Um, I found a couple of things. A couple of things were effective, and you may have tried this. I find that some people are always going to be last minute people for the reasons that you named. So knowing that they're going to be last minute people, I ask them, when would be a good time for me to call you? If the meeting is on Friday afternoon, do I call you? Can I call you like first thing on Friday morning, end of the day on Thursday? When I need it by this date, this time, my update for this purpose, when would be a good time that I can just call in real quick rather than email? Because there's something about email that feels very exhausting to people when like I'm making an effort to say all the right things in a way with the tone and the clarity, that I'm trying to attend so it's not coming across as like passive aggressive or whatever. And then now they're like, ugh, I've got to like stop and respond to this thing. And they're thinking they're all the same thing of like, they got to get the right information. I've got to go like check it down. But if they can just like speak it to you and you can answer questions, ask questions in real time, they can give you a response. I find that people are much more willing to answer a call and have a 5-minute chat than to respond to an email. I don't know what it is. Like psychologically, like that is like usually an easier lift. So you might have like set times where you have blocked off your calendar to call your problematic PMs, people, other project managers, to get the information you need. I also find that having a dashboard and sending that out to everyone, including boss, also helpful. There's something about like my name and my projects red next to like other people's names and projects, yellow and green, lots of red, where people feel like, okay, I don't want to be the loser on the dashboard again. So I'm going to try and like, it doesn't work for everyone, but it works for a lot of people. Where like public accountability of like, I have received updates from this person, I'm still missing. Recognize like, hey, like I'm gonna need this information from you every month or whatever it is. When is a good time just to like call you and just ask you the couple questions so I can get what I need? And they're like, yeah, usually I'm free at this time on these days. The other thing I do is if I find that someone is just like swamped and like I can't get them on a phone call, I can't get them to respond to anything, I'll just like, hey, I noticed like you're having it's been like you've got a lot on your plate right now, and it's been difficult to like keep up with these status updates. Is there someone else on your team that I can get this information from? And so like basically like give them a window. And even if it's like, no, 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 I can do it, I can do it, like something about that of like, no, 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 don't take it from me, I can do it. You're saying like I can't handle it. I'll do it. Or what you really hope for is that they actually do give you a name and someone else who's more responsive can help with that, whether it's like their admin or coordinator or whatever. Um, that's and have you, I mean, that's what I have found to be effective. You might be already using some of that though.
Yeah, I think that helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I used to also have monthly and then sometimes quarterly meetings with everyone to go over all the dashboards, I also find like if they couldn't get it on a phone call, couldn't get it on email, everyone's seeing the dashboard, something about everyone being in a meeting and like me calling you, suddenly now they have all the information. Like, suddenly now they can give me like a budget and a status update. That's like usually like my last ditch effort. If all that fails, then yeah, by all means, CC their manager and put them on the naughty list. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. That's a great question though, and wildly frustrating when you're in that position. I also encourage you to reward the good behaviors you see publicly in situations like that where you're pulling from like a team of people. It's just like the ones who are doing a really good job and are very timely and prompt, just to continue to thank them privately and publicly for being like so reliable and trustworthy. So that way, in the same way that you're holding the bad performers accountable, you're also like encouraging the behavior that you want repeated.
Yeah.
Any other advice for Miguel? Okay. Cool. Okay, this is a good one. This is a good one. What does a leader need to understand about a person before they can truly engage them? What
I
is
would
some of
say,
okay,
I would say their strong points. Find out
strong-
what their strong points are. That way, you can engage with them in to send them in the right direction as far as work. Some guys have strong points. It could be electrical, plumbing, or carpentry, whatever the case is, or HVAC, or whatever the case is. But you first need to find out what his strong points are, if he's well rounded or what, and that way you know which way to engage with him.
Nice. Yeah, thank you for that.
I was gonna say communication style, but or just the way they like to be communicated. Um, some are visual learners, some, you know, like you said, you could just tell them something and they run with it. Um, but yeah, how they'd like to communicate.
Yeah. Maybe another way to think about this is, what do you want your leader to understand about you before they can truly engage with you?
What drives them?
Hmm. Yeah, your motivators. What about what demotivates you? Yeah. The worst thing you can do to me as my leader is this. Nothing will make me want to walk out this door faster. Yeah, you name them. So people are motivated by different things. Um, we're going to dig into this a little bit, but yeah, understanding each person's goals, motivations. So understanding their career goals. All of this is in our user guide, and the purpose of that was for you to do that work first, and then for you to go to your teams and do that work with them. So it has questions in there about like, what are your goals professionally and personally? Why do I have personal goals in there? Because you want to make sure that you're recognizing them as the whole person, that they're just not like a job title or a function. Yes, that is the relationship you have. But if they don't feel like their personal goals are being supported, they're probably going to come to work distracted and disengaged. So you got to figure out, what are your personal and your professional goals. So I'm creating the time, space, and flexibility to the extent I can for you to be able to achieve those goals. Because the better you feel about yourself and that you're gaining momentum in life and that you're like winning in the world, the more engaged you're going to show up as a human inside and outside work. Certainly what motivates you, just like what V said, what pressures you might be facing. You know, what are your constraints and limitations right now? Short term and long term. The strengths, Ricky mentioned that. Confidence. How confident are you in your skills, right? Do you feel like you have the skills you need to do your job with confidence? Your communication preferences. Thank you for bringing that up. And then the reality of the world. Like this is the reality of what's going on with me right now and what I can do, what I can control. That does, it does make a difference. Age, generation, and personality type and job title. So keep that in mind as well. All of this is adding context, right, to the bigger person of like, who is this person? How are they wired and what drives them? Another great question to ask your team is, what brings you joy at work? I love this question because it takes people out of like that. A lot of it's like duty, fulfillment, responsibility. Like especially like men, think about the sense of like, this is my duty and my responsibility. Like, am I committed to this or not? We don't really think about like joy. And I think it's like such a fun way to think about like, yeah, where do I find joy at work? How do I get to do more of that stuff? And as a leader, you want to be able to give your team more time and freedom to find joy at work. Again, to the extent that you can and reality allows. This next section comes from this book. I love this book so much. I read it back to back. I listened to it back to back. Your next 5 moves. Yes, it is for business owners and entrepreneurs, but it's also for humans. Like, it's for anyone. It was also recommended by Ray Dalio, and I did read his book, Principles. This is a very snoozy book, this Principles book. It's so boring, but also very helpful. It's just one of those of like, if you can like commit to listening to it, you will gain a lot from it. I bring this book one up, that is Your Next 5 Moves, because he brings up this section that I thought was just really insightful. So people have different personal and professional development themes that help answer the question, what brings you joy at work? So of course, the first thing is to understand where you are in the spectrum. By the way, you don't have to pick one, right? You could be a mix of more than one. So advancement driven people are motivated by striving either for the next promotion or for completing tasks efficiently. They probably have a lot of that achiever theme in them. They love it. They love to meet a deadline. They like to achieve a goal individually or as a team, and they push themselves forward and progress in multiple aspects of their life. So if they're a person who is motivated by advancement, you probably see them excelling in multiple areas of their life. And they may even show up in the way that, like, I want to be the best version of myself so I can provide for my family. It might not even just be about them. Sometimes it is. I want to be the best version of myself to prove that I can be. I am a winner. I can do hard things. I'm going to prove it to myself. And then some people are like, and I want to provide for my family and give them the best life that I can. So people with advancement are sort of like always looking at, like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next achievement? Madness. I love this one. Madness, people who are driven by madness have to have a worthy opponent. So it's like me or us against you or them. They're like so driven by like this competition that might not even be real. Like I made the joke in the beginning of like, oh, you're the person in the room where like you're in a competition with everyone else, but you're the only one who knows it. Madness is someone who's like, I need an enemy or an opponent because that helps push me forward. They have this intense drive or passion that propels them to like excel. They've got like this like madness inside of them. So they seek out challenges, they seek out opponents or objectives to overcome. Michael Jordan, classic madness. Like he is like the archetype of madness. People with this mindset are highly competitive. They aim to break records and prove doubters wrong. The fear of failure or embarrassment motivates them to push their limits. Individuality. These are the snowflakes now. These people, they want a unique lifestyle. Like they're like, okay, yes, I am work human, but I am also human, and I need you to respect that. Like I have my own vision of like how I want my life to go. I want agency over my time. I've got commitments outside of work that I want to fulfill. So they are focused on lifestyle. They seek recognition. They want to feel like they are being valued and recognized. They strive for personal security. So security is really important to them, either financial security or work security. And they create their own path. They're like, yeah, I know these are my job duties, but like, I'm going to put my own spin on it. Like I'm going to find an opportunity to do my own thing, create a process, oversee some, part of my job. I'm going to carve out, my own way because they want to be distinct from others and find fulfillment and being recognized for their own achievements. Security for them is also about emotional well-being, not just financial. The last one is purpose, which is finding meaning in actions and endeavors. Purpose-driven people, they want to make a significant impact. They want to leave the world in a better place than what they found it. They're probably legacy focused. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. So that could be like making history. That could be through helping others, like other people are part of their legacy, driving change, like going against the system, spreading enlightenment, like helping others get enlightenment and find enlightenment and be educated, or contributing just to anything that's just, bigger than themselves. So question, which of these or which one resonates with you and how do you know?
For me, it's advancement. I like to see projects completed. That fulfills me, and obviously also advancement in my personal endeavor.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd also say advancement and madness. Something about that. it's us against the system, right? It's us against all these monstrous buildings, all of the internal guts, all of the programs, all of the systems, all of the, it's us against all of it. So trying to get it all and keep it all wrangled, and then also while obviously trying to advance
Yeah.
and advance, the ones around me.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm the same. But yeah, something about the madness, very motivational.
Mhm. Yeah, people with madness, they like have their own fuel tank, like their own like jetpack that none of us, like other people just don't see or have. Like they're so hungry. Anyone else?
Come on, Miguel.
Mhm.
I'll take the snowflake. No, the advancement and the individuality.
Yeah.
I do like to do things my own way and kind of stand out. So
Yeah.
I think I am like that.
All right. The key for yourself, of course, is to finding work that aligns as closely as possible to wherever you're at in that spectrum so that you can feel like you're achieving in a way that's meaningful to you. Because the more wins that you have, the more likely that you're going to chase, more wins and have more wins. And to also to understand that about, your team. So we've talked about relationships and the sense of community that you're building, understanding where your team is on that spectrum and placing them in those areas, or at least communicating in a way that resonates with them. So the way that you're going to communicate with someone with madness is probably different than someone with individuality. That messaging is going to be different. Whether it's just like, hey, I need your help with this. For someone with individuality, like I trust you and I'm going to tell you what my vision is and the outcomes that we need. And then I'm going to give you the space, to figure it out. Whereas someone with madness is be like, hey, I need you to basically be like the warrior against whatever's broken. There's a problem that's broken. There's whether it's like the system, like the figurative system or a literal system that you can touch. Something is broken. Can you fix it? Or like, hey, I challenge you. No one else has been able to do this. Like, I'm going to challenge you and try to speak, to that madness. Or like, hey, like, I think you're going to be great for a promotion. I see the skills that you're developing and the investment that you've made here at this organization. But I can't promise that that position is going to be for you. I'm seeing some other people around here, doing the same thing. You'd be like, wait a minute. Wait, no one's going to take my spot. Like, no one's going to take my value. So you're going to speak to them, in different ways that like really resonates. And when you do that, um, you create like this community where people they feel seen, they feel valued, and they're more willing to recognize others for who they are. Another way that you can ask your team about what motivates them and like engage with them is to understand their levels of why. I think I mentioned before Simon Sinek's video, Why, or like the purpose of why. It's a great video. It's like 20 years old now. But we all kind of like move through this spectrum. Some people move through it more quickly than others. And some people never get out of like level 1 or level 2, and like their greatest achievement is level 3. The key here is to understand like those levels of why and where people are at. That you mentioned, to understand what motivates them. So a lot of people get stuck on 1 and they don't leave 1. And 1 is, I'm here to do my job. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm here to do my job. I'm going to clock in. I'm going to do good work. And then I'm going to go home because I'm in survival mode. I'm here to like care for my family and support my family. I want to make sure that they have food, shelter, safety, and they're healthy and I can be with my loved ones. I'm here for my job. And a lot of people stay there, survival. Some people, if you're, especially those of you who said achievement, you're going to be here pretty soon after survival. You're like, that's great, cool, everyone's good, I'm good, family's good. What's next? What's the next thing? How do we get more of, whatever the next thing is? And that's for sometimes out of respect. You're seeking respect. Some people seek admiration or love from specific people. Maybe they want influence. Maybe they want power on some level. So power could be I have agency and autonomy over my life and my time. So status would be like the next thing of like, what's, the next level. And then eventually people want to get to a point where they have freedom. And people oftentimes think about like financial freedom. That could certainly be one of them. There's a financial component in survival, and there's certainly one in status and freedom. You got to have financial stability to survive, and then you get more compensation for status. And then you can like outwardly show that and show it to yourself that like you've arrived at some level. And then financial freedom is where you're not so concerned about finances anymore and everyone's good. Freedom can also be like, I have the freedom to be my authentic self. I know who I am, and people respect that and they like that about me. They trust that I'm going to show up, as me. That's huge freedom. A lot of people don't get to do that. They feel like they have to perform to be who people think they should be. Freedom could be your time. I can go and do what I want when I want it. Or it could be like I have a hobby where I have these desires and passions outside of work, and I have the freedom to go and spend time in, in my hobbies, in my interest. And the last one is legacy. And a lot of people don't make it to this level. But after you've achieved survival status and freedom, eventually you'll start thinking about legacy. And that is, I'm taken care of, my family and my loved ones are taken care of. I feel like I've earned whatever level of respect or social acceptance, influence that I've wanted. I have the freedom to be myself and do spend my time how I want to. I've got financial freedom and security. And now I can think about, okay, like everything else is good. So now what do I want the hallmark of my life to be? Whether that's through other people and the investments I made in them, or I've created something that people can look back on. I've educated, I've shaped the future in some way that's contributed to something larger than myself. Again, figuring out where you are in the spectrum and then also where your team is can be really helpful because it changes the language that you use with them and the way that you might motivate them. All right. So one question that these things often get conflated, meaning that people use them interchangeably, but how would you describe the difference between employee engagement and appreciation?
I guess engagement is just someone doing the job just because it's their job, and appreciation is someone who actually likes to do what they do. It's kind of, if that's
Okay.
what like someone just doing their 8 hours just to go home, and someone who actually enjoys what they do and wants to be better at it.
Okay. I might describe it as they more or less complement each other. So engagement could be the person that just shows up and wants to do a good job and just, perform. But I think engagement is usually hallmarked by someone's commitment. So they're committed to the mission, they're committed to the team. They invest into their work and their team, into the organization, and they motivate other people. It's also hallmarked, I think, by retention. So they tend to stay around longer. So when someone's engaged, they're not trying to like find another place to go and work. And they're satisfied with their job, they're productive at work. And they are engaged in the organization's success. And then appreciation would be like focusing on more of that short-term recognition. So engagement is like that's the long game. Like I've got to create a culture where people are engaged for the long game of them investing in this organization, they're retaining, they're wanting to help others grow. That's engagement. Where appreciation, I think of more of like short term of like, you did a great thing and I'm going to let you know. And it's recognizing people for their effort as well as their achievement and their contributions. This one will boost morale. So culture is like, that's again like the long game. And that's what I think about for engagement. Appreciation, I tend to think about morale. Like if you want a morale boost, you give someone some appreciation. And that's more of like a short-term thing, to create like a positive work environment that ultimately contributes, to the culture. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about this, but part of like recognizing people who they are individually and engaging them is also recognizing that we have multiple generations in our workforce. I imagine you have all 4 of these on your team. Would you agree with that? Yeah. This is an important conversation because whatever generation or whatever time that you grew up in shapes the way that you see the world. And we talked about bias, a few weeks ago, and our biases are oftentimes shaped by the generation that we're a part of. And so how you might interact with different generations on your team will probably adjust. So baby boomers, they need clear goals and deadlines, and they like stability. They like structure. They also want opportunities to mentor others, and they want to know that the organization still values experience and judgment. Because especially if they've been in the organization for a long time, they've seen turnover, they've seen new perspectives come in, maybe they've even seen junior people get promotions. And at some point, with technology and new people and new processes and new leadership, they might start thinking, am I still valued? Does my experience and my expertise and my judgment still matter? And so with baby boomers, you have to be very intentional about saying, we recognize you for the investment you made in this organization, and we still value your judgment. Gen Xers are totally different, in that they tend to want more independence. They seek a lot more flexibility and work-life balance. They are looking for like control of themselves. Like they are usually the ones, I'm going to do things my way. I like independence. But they also want opportunities to grow and pave their own way. They do prefer direct and timely feedback specific about their performance. Millennials are a little bit more, they're seeking more for that connection. They are still results oriented, but they look for meaning and impact in their job. They also like autonomy and immediate feedback. And then your Gen Z group typically looks for authenticity, and they want to know they're within an organization that aligns with their personal values. So they're going to be thinking more about inclusion, belonging, diversity, transparency, and also they're more technology driven. I mean, they just had more exposure to technology when they grew up. So that's where they're going to be seeing the world from. What I find when we start to have these conversations, though, is that I can get quite lazy. So people tend to like label generations without thinking of like, these are massive groups of people, who are made up of individuals. So we've got to be like, we have to resist the temptation to say, oh, this generation is loyal. Oh, they're a millennial. They're entitled. Oh, they're Gen X. They're resistant to change. Oh, they're Gen Z. They need constant praise. Oh my goodness. You've got to, they're like puppies. You got to pet them, give them a treat every 5 seconds. Like we can't see people that way. It's helpful. I think it like adds context, knowing what generation they're from, because again, it shapes how they view the world. But you've got to resist the urge to group them all together. So more helpful questions are like, where is this person in their career? What do they need to perform well? And what kind of future do they believe that they have here? Usually early careerist. Obviously, they need a ton of like onboarding. If we think about that situational leadership model, they need a lot of coaching and regular feedback. Like they want to know that what they're doing is correct and they're on the right path and they're contributing at a meaningful level. Whereas a more experienced worker, like I said before, they want to know their judgment is respected. Their voice still matters. They are still relevant. In fact, their knowledge is valued because it's useful to the organization and it contributes in a meaningful way. So breaking it down, old school. So old school age differentiated leadership research suggests that older workers benefit when leadership truly pays attention to their needs, and the youngers benefit from strong leader relationships and a balanced approach that's not default to one style for everyone. So we've said this in a bunch of different ways, but people are more likely to stay engaged, which is the whole point of our discussion today, if they understand what is expected. We've said that several times. They feel capable. I like to say they feel empowered. When I say empowered, it's not like a fuzzy, soft term. I feel like I can make decisions as close to the work as possible because I have the skills, resources, and support to do that. And that's what makes me feel empowered, that I know I can achieve that desired outcome. And they take ownership of their work and they feel respected by those around them. Okay, so questions that I'm going to challenge you to take back to your teams is, if you start to see disengagement, think through, does this person understand what success look like? So maybe there's a performance issue and the question might be, hey, have I shown you how to done this? Or have we talked about the process for doing this? Or have we talked about like why this is important? And even if you know the answer is yes, that allows them a safe space to say no. And then it gives you the opportunity to either be more explicit, rephrase, or give them one-on-one attention to clearly define what success looks like. Are they getting useful feedback rather than like good job and do better? Like this was really great. You did all of these things correctly. The next time you do this, I want you to focus on whatever it is. Do they feel respected? Regardless of how they're treating themselves and their teams, are you still treating them with respect and dignity? Does this person see a future here? If they don't, they're going to be disengaged. Like that's a no-brainer. Do they have opportunities to contribute at a higher level over time? I think that goes back to, do I have a future here and what does that trajectory look like? And a lot of times you have to make that clear to them. Like they're wondering like, what is my future here? What is the next step for me? How do I grow here? And you have to be proactive in answering those questions. Okay, our last bit that we're going to cover is one-on-one meetings. Who here has one-on-one meetings with their direct reports? B, who else? Anyone else? One-on-one meetings?
You said with our direct reports?
Yeah, people who report to you directly?
Oh, all the time.
Oh, yeah, every day.
Every day. Okay, tell me about those. How do you conduct them?
The meetings?
Yeah, the meetings.
Well, I mean, we have shift change meetings every day, so we conduct those every day. So we engage with everyone.
What about people you're just meeting with one-on-one though?
One-on-one, we do a couple, if they come into the office that they need a one-on-one, we'll do those. But usually Rick, Valdi, and myself will do one-on-ones before the meetings,
Okay.
or not one-on-ones, but all three of us, and just to get the information before we conduct the meeting.
But we do understand that there are some guys that will not speak up or talk during a big group session. So I try to give work or assignments well, one-on-one. You know, that I have seen that they get it better. They understand the direction one-on-one. So certain people.
Are those planned and scheduled at like a set frequency, or are they sort of like as needed?
As needed. I mean, there are some things that are planned and set, but yeah, it's just needed.
Okay.
And that goes back to where you got to learn the person. How is it better? How do they take the communication?
Valdi, do you have a one-on-one, or are they scheduled? Are they as needed or scheduled?
They're as needed also. Just
Okay.
I mean, from all range, from good things to bad to behavioral issues. But yeah, so if it gets to where it needs attention, it's usually a one-on-one.
Okay.
And we schedule some time just so we make sure we're not rushing through it.
Okay, cool. So one-on-ones are really like they're very unique because they're not just like a meeting. And I think a lot of us approach one-on-ones as a meeting. And it's really what the purpose of a one-on-one, if it's done in an engaging way, is not to seek out what is being done about the work. It's not to understand the work itself, but it's to understand the person doing the work, which is a totally different like mindset than coming in and be like, okay, what do we have to do by when? What are the obstacles? Totally different mindset than like, how are you doing? Do you have what you need to feel supported? Do you understand what the expectations are? Big, big difference. The reason why a lot of leaders approach them as like a regular meeting or like a status meeting is because that's what we think about. I mean, we are getting pulled in so many different directions, being asked to solve all of these different problems. People are calling us for our time and attention. And so we're just trying to get a handle on the work, because someone's probably going to ask us a question about the work, and we better have the answers about who's doing what and when. So it's really easy to come into these meetings just to get like a rundown of the information. This starts to form like a relationship where it can feel like a performance review or just like a status or a taskless meeting. And then there's less time to engage and connect with the person, which is like everything we've been talking about today. So a strong one-on-one, if done really well, does create that space for all the things that you said were important. With this new leadership and this new culture, there's clarity, there's trust, there's coaching, there's early problem solving. That doesn't happen unless we actually create space for it and be very intentional about it. So during your one-on-one, your objective as the leader is not understand what work is being done and when. It's what is energizing this person. Where's their energy at? Or what's draining them? Where are they getting stuck and potentially frustrated and therefore could be disengaged later on? What support do they need? As their leader, like I need to be able to support them. How are they experiencing their work right now? Like what is their perspective at work? So you want to do these 5 things. You want to create connection so the person feels seen and respected. We said that so much during our time today, to feel seen and respected. Clarity. So their priorities and expectations are understood. I have a lot on my plate. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I can't say that because I don't want to feel like I don't know how to do my job. I don't want someone to think less of me. So I'm going to just, here's the work I'm going to get done. Here's a rundown of it. Wait, pump the brakes. Do you know what your priorities are? How do you know what your priorities are? What are you focusing on first? If you're feeling overwhelmed, what is the one thing that you can get done this morning? Do you understand your expectations? Also creating insight. So you might see barriers and stressors that they can't see because they can get like really laser focused on their work. So you might be offering insight, but you also might be gaining insight about their work experience. They might have barriers that you didn't know about. Oh, yeah, you can go talk to so and so. Oh, yeah, we've got a policy for that. Oh, yeah, someone's already created an SOP for that. I'll get that for you. You're giving insight, but you're also collecting insight. Accountability. So making sure that the progress, we're doing what we said we were going to do when we said we were going to do it. That is important. So also creating that time for accountability. Hey, you said you were going to do this yesterday. How'd that go? Oh, you didn't do it. What happened? And movement. So people can, yep, out of the one-on-one, I know exactly what I'm supposed to be focused on. I know what's expected of me, and I know I feel supported. So you start by checking in. How are you doing? It shouldn't be scripted. It's specific to that individual, right? Gather information about what energy they're bringing into the space. Are they feeling stressed, frustrated, fatigued? Are they coming in with a higher energy? They feel like they're in a good mood. Are they energized? So just be curious. Like, how are they coming into this space? What energy are they bringing? Then clarify. What is most important to you right now? What are you working on? What's your priority? What if you don't get anything else done today, like what would feel like a win? What's the one thing that you have got it done? What obstacles are getting in your way? What's making the work? What's creating friction for you right now? So this allows you to see if there's confusion, if someone's feeling overloaded, if they've got conflicting priorities and they don't know which direction to go. I've got to do this, but I also got to do this. Help me decide. And then coach them, provide them with some support, answering questions if they have any, and then finally committing. So we're going to end the meeting, the one-on-one, very clear next steps. What is expected of you? What am I going to do to support you? And what are we going to follow up the next time we see each other? All right, so scheduling, I highly recommend consistency where you can. I understand you can't create a consistent one-on-one with everyone on your team, but there are probably key people where you should. Those key people might be the ones who have the biggest impact because of their skill set, their tenure, they've been around longer, or maybe just their influence on the team. People respect them and follow them. And so you want to keep that person engaged. So figure out who those people are and try to commit to having a consistent one-on-one with them and protect that time. So this isn't time that we can call in half of it and like, oh, something coming up. Sorry, we'll have to catch up next week. There's this time that you commit to because remember, this is about engagement. And so you want to make sure that they feel like they are being respected and they're important and they're valued. That's not to say that emergencies aren't going to happen. Don't be passive, right? So watch for changes in tone or energy. Resist the urge to solve everything too quickly. This one's hard. This one's really hard. They've got a problem. Right. Oh, I know the answer. Oh, got it. Like allow them space to grow in these meetings. What solutions have you thought of? What have you tried? What do you think the next thing is to do? This is where that work happens, is during those one-on-ones. So slow down, be slower than you want to be. Slow down. Also keep notes. You don't need a transcript, but you do want to have notes that whenever you do check in with them again next time, did they say they were frustrated? Did they say they were stressed? Are there consistent themes that keep coming up in your conversation about like a broken system or a problem person? Keep notes of that, reference them real quickly the next time you meet. And be like, hey, last time we talked, you said you were struggling with this. Or last time you talked, you had questions about this. How'd that go? That makes a big, big difference in making people feel like that their time and contributions are worthwhile. Okay, sometimes people in those meetings, they'll want to take charge. They might be venting. Could be wanting problem solving. And sometimes people need accountability. You don't know where the room's going to go. You sort of like let the person it's their time. It's how I look at it. Is your time with me, right? I protected my calendar to give you my time and attention. So You get to drive the conversation. Sometimes people need a vent. Don't fall into the trap of like like venting with them, but acknowledge them so that they feel heard. And yeah, just rather than saying like everything's gonna be okay, it's been a hard month. I can see that you're having a hard month. What can I do to help? Don't try to dismiss. Don't try to like, no, that happened to you. What? Like, don't feed into it. It's been a hard month. How can I help? Sometimes people need help solving problems, and sometimes people just need accountability. I understand the frustration. I understand that you're frustrated with how things are, but that's the way it is right now. For those of you like Baldy who appreciate consistency, this one will be easier. Like I understand what you're saying, but like this is the rule. This is the standard. I've gave some questions in the slide deck to help kind of guide this conversation next time. It'll take some practice, but ways that you could open up that conversation is to understand what's going well, what's like creating friction, or where people are getting stuck, what's taking more energy than expected, what could make their work easier or clearer, what is giving them the most meaning lately, fulfillment, where is it feeling frustrating? Do you feel like you're clear on priorities? Like, do you know what's expected of you? Sort of like asking that question, but maybe try to make it more open-ended of, how are you deciding your priorities for this week? Or, just trying to get them to not give you a yes or no answer. And then when you really have got more space and time, so maybe you've scheduled, a lunch or a breakfast with a key person that you're seeing a lot of potential in, what would growth look like for you over the next few months? If they're feeling stuck at work or bored or complacent, what would growth look like for you? And then during these one-on-one meetings, what you're hoping to do is spot disengagement. And you can do that with these questions of like, where do you feel like, how has the work been feeling? What's making it harder to stay motivated or focused? Do you feel like you're being heard, like your ideas and concerns are being heard? What's stopped bringing up? Is there anything you have stopped bringing up because you think it won't change? And then how's your mental health? So these will help surface some of those issues where if you go into that meeting and you're like, what are you working on right now? Who's doing it? What's the status? There will never be space for these types of questions. And you'll never be able to reveal kind of what people are carrying around with them in their work. And then look for patterns. Like there might be like someone's having a hard day. We've talked about that. But like look for those patterns, take those notes, identify where someone might be feeling overloaded. Maybe you've asked too much of them, or maybe you're not asking enough of them. Maybe they don't feel challenged. Maybe if people feel micromanaged, that might surprise you. Like, oh, I'm not meaning to like micromanage you. I'm trying to support you. So what you want to do is try to get curious. I said that at the beginning, just get curious about how this person is experiencing work and then get down to like the root cause of why they're feeling that way. Avoid talking too much. This one's hard. We talked about this. I'll go back to it. Do not rush past the answer because it feels uncomfortable. Remember, shoulder to shoulder, doing something with your hands with them. And then another one is just like not following up. Like always make sure that you're following up and you're setting those expectations. If you say you're going to do something, let them know that you did it. If you're holding them accountable, check in and make sure that they did the thing. Okay, next time we're going to talk about motivating people at work. We're not going to do it this time because we won't have time for this next section. But like last time, there will be some reflection questions for you for your homework. That's really it. It's just taking time. I'll probably ask you to try some of the strategies that we've discussed and let us know, what worked for you or which ones you especially, resonated with you or were effective. And so we'll talk about that next time. We'll have a couple weeks for you to try out some things and we can see, maybe what worked or what you enjoyed. But does anyone have any follow-up questions for today? Or
I have a question. So on the homework, do we need to turn it in, or is that something we just do on our own? Or
The further reflection questions, go ahead and just turn in
Okay.
those. Yeah, and don't worry about like those are for you. Like honestly, like that's not for us to like grade you or evaluate you. Those are like really to give you some time to like reflect on how you're going to use some of the things that we've talked about and kind of like track that.
Okay.
Good question. Any other closing thoughts or questions for today? Chris, welcome. Hopefully we'll get you talking more next time, huh?
It'll take me 1 or 2 classes. I'll get better.
I appreciate that. It's a lot to take in. But I do appreciate for those of you who are speaking up and asking good questions. I think that really helps advance the conversation. Chris, it's so great to see you and to have you as part of this group. I'm looking forward to working with you. Just let me know when we can meet about your user guide after you get the initial work done, and I'll walk you through that the next spreadsheet.
Okay.
All
We'll
right.
pick Chris next week or 2 weeks.
You what?
We'll pick on Chris in 2 weeks.
Oh, don't tell him that. I want him to come back.
It's all right. It's all right.
He's a tough cookie.
Yeah,
All right.
we're all gonna mute next time, and it's only gonna be Chris and Louise.
That sounds super engaging for them.
Now I'm being a bully.
You better watch out. That's Muhammad. I won't shut up.
Well, it's
Thank you,
great
Lindsay.
great to see you guys. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.